these people that are bringing me a little bit of myself back to me in a loving exchange. It's not dramatic. It's not that interesting. But it is a form of relationship, a form of self-knowledge I did not ever know existed. It's not psychological. It's not emotional. It literally has to do with letting someone in, letting them be a messenger from the Holy Spirit of me to myself, receiving them as such. They go away healed and whole, and I go away healed and whole. It's a brand new way of relating that I've never known existed until we started doing this.
It's kind of a lot more like dream interpretation than that way.
Yeah.
Because all aspects of the dream
living it like a living dream.
Yeah, like a living dream, as if, each of the items that show up, whether they're people or actual objects and everything else, become a message back at us.
This is A Course in Miracles. It is a required course. Only the time you take it is voluntary. Free will does not mean that you can establish the curriculum. It means only that you can elect what you want to take at a given time. The course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught. It does aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. The opposite of love is fear, but what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. This course can therefore be summed up very simply in this way. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God.
This is part 2, Passing the Dream, chapter 18, The Little Garden.
And what is the little garden?
The little garden is it's our parcel. That we have a parcel because of misunderstanding who we are. We've excluded God, and so we have an arid landscape, and you can feel it. You can feel it. It's arid. There's mistrust and separation of people. And the little garden is letting a little love in there in the form of forgiveness, in the form of a lack of grievances. And to tend this little garden with the care indicated in this book to lead to the happy dream. I would say the little garden is a reference to the happy dream, where our little parched parcel gets irrigated. Paragraph 8. Love knows no bodies and reaches to everything created like itself. Its total lack of limit is its meaning. It is completely impartial in its giving, encompassing only to preserve and keep complete what it would give. In your tiny kingdom, you have so little. Should it not then be there that you would call on love to enter? Look at the desert, dry and unproductive, scorched and joyless, that makes up your little kingdom, and realize the life and joy that love would bring to it from where it comes and where it would return with you. Okay, from where it comes and where it would return with you. Okay, so there's a recycling aspect here of I have a parched parcel here, and that's the separation, the lack of love, the suspicion I feel, the sense that I have to protect and defend and all that other kind of stuff. And it's saying with forgiveness, with the lack of grievances, there is the melding of boundaries, as I used in the other example with, again, my son-in-law, because it was so graphic, where he was obviously angry. I should obviously have been felt attacked. It was not a good thing, but I actually felt love there. I mean, I really did feel intimacy there coming. So if we have that assistance from the Holy Spirit to reinterpret this world, it brings love into a situation where son-in-law and I would have been at loggerheads of some sort.
In the parched landscape.
Yeah, in the parched landscape.
Really?
And instead, from my side, and I would say, I would have to assume that God is complete enough to allow this to bleed over into his, the son-in-law's landscape as well, that love actually does irrigate that, and it becomes a little bit more garden-like. There's no judgments. There's no need for apologies. There's no need for anything other than just, oh, I understand. We have a different way of expressing our mutual desire to love one another.
Right, yeah. This particular paragraph, it said, should it not then be that you would call on love to enter? So now, right, in this first one, it's a call to love. We want the call. We are inviting the love to enter into this. And so in each of these paragraphs, it's going to give us instructions of how we're going to actually invite a change in the garden that we are existing in into a productive garden. Okay, paragraph 9. The thought of God surrounds your little kingdom, waiting at the barrier you built to come inside and shine upon the barren ground. See how life springs up everywhere? The desert becomes a garden, green and deep and quiet, offering rest to those who lost their way and wander in the dust. Give them a place of refuge, prepared by love for them, where once a desert was. And everyone you welcome will bring love with him from heaven for you. They enter one by one into this holy place, but they will not depart as they had come alone. The love they brought with them will stay with them, as it will stay with you. And under its beneficence, your little garden will expand and reach out to everyone who thirsts for living water, but has grown too weary to go on alone. And then that's, Jesus saying, come to me, all who are weary and who thirst, because he is the living water.
Right.
In this one, it's saying that the thought of God surrounds our little garden, waiting at the barrier you built to come inside and shine upon the barren ground. So it's asking us to drop that barrier so that the thought of God can actually enter into the space. It's a mind space, really.
Well, I know I'm a bit like a broken record, but
yeah, go ahead.
Let's. I think sounds great. Sounds great. What does it look like in practice? Because I know that if I had read this some years back, I would just think, oh, there he goes again, going over the top with a bunch of Himalayan language that doesn't apply to us. Now I feel like I have had enough experiences with reality with a small r and a capital R, even on the trip, to say that this has reality. This has...
Well, I'm going to ask you, since you're so clear about what that is, to go ahead and explain what you have with that.
Well, once again, I will say, if I'll use a couple of examples. I talked about a kid, and I talk about it in another video. This kid who is obviously psychotic walks up, and I've got this thing going on with my leg, and he looks at me and he goes, "Wow, man."
We're actually looking at a car under a hood.
Yeah, we're looking
in a parking
under the
lot.
hood of a car in a parking lot, and this guy, he looked okay, kind of well-groomed kid. He was, and it's in my son's apartment complex. So he comes up and he says, "Wow." He's looking at my leg. I'm wearing shorts, and he's going, "What is going on with that?" And I'm going, "What?" I mean, So anyway, so there was this moment of focus on something that I actually am self-conscious about. I had to wear like one of your support stocking or something, I guess, to keep that bulge stuck in there or something like that, But anyway, I don't want to get into the biology of it. That's why it was abstracted, but it's hard to talk about without getting into the specifics. Anyway, the kid makes this observation. It was obvious that he was psychotic. Okay, he'd either burned his brain out on LSD or something similar to that.
And yet he comes like a prophet.
Now the thing is, As soon as he started talking, as soon as he started pointing at me, I did not receive an attack. I didn't hear an attack. I didn't see an attack. As soon as he walked up, I said, wow, Phil, here you go. This is the form your self-criticism takes. This is a form that really, to put it, try to make it clearly, your self-hatred takes, your self-judgments take, your self-consciousness takes this form. And so I received it really as a gift. I really, really did. Now, it's a gift that's kind of hard to manage because it doesn't sound like, oh, you're so great. No, he's criticizing me, he's warning me, he's sending me to the hospital, he's doing all kinds of stuff. So, but I didn't receive it that way. And in the one that I mentioned earlier, my daughter's husband, I did not receive it as an attack. So,
I'd say that that's the course working now.
So what I'm saying is, the course is working, but what are we talking about here? It is not some virtue that I'm generating. It has nothing to do with some ability that I've developed to be tolerant or to love everybody or to extend love to everybody or to be, neutral. It's none of that. It's because of understanding that I am talking about a real world here where the garden is waiting. God's force of love is trapped outside of our bubble of existence. And what is that? What does that bubble of existence? We constantly maintain it with grievances and attack and defend. We're constantly pruning and maintaining the edge so that God's garden cannot come into our barren landscape. It is a constant process. And I will say, if anything, I went into this trip with the idea of availing myself of the miracle, availing myself of the reality of God that's outside of that process. So when the kid comes up and says something that normally would have shaken me up, when the son-in-law comes up and he does stuff that would have normally shaken me up, or my own son doing something that would have shaken me up, different things like that, I honest to goodness didn't feel it as attacks. Instead, I felt like the voice of God really was trying to reach into me. And now I may not be able to understand it very, very clearly at the moment, but I did know that it wasn't about the kid, it wasn't about him, it wasn't about that. It was about my relationship with God, including the turnpike toll gate thing. It's about my relationship with God, meaning, how do you let this garden in?
Right.
It's available. There is a pressure on it. It will come in.
Yeah. So in this one, it said, it's asking first of us to drop the barrier. So again, in each of these paragraphs now, it's giving us it's an invitation. We've invited, it was a call for love. And now it's saying, will you drop that barrier so that God's thought that surrounds my little kingdom can enter? Will we drop it? So then you're given the opportunity to drop that. And then it says the desert becomes a garden green and quiet, offering rest to those who lost their way and wander in the dust. So once the thought of God comes in, I'm not the only one who benefits. You're not the only one who benefits. It's saying that others are going to benefit from this.
I'm going to give you a clear example.
Okay.
On the same thing. I didn't balk at the kid. I didn't set up barriers against the kid. So I would say that he didn't receive an attack from me.
Right.
Instead, it was nothing. So I'm not going to say that I know that he benefited or not, but you and I definitely benefited.
Yes, we did. Yeah.
Because I wasn't charged up and messed up. In the case of the son-in-law in the kitchen and the temper tantrum thing, my daughter didn't receive the tension that might have been generated by me going off or getting defensive or having a real argument with the son-in-law, or that there was either that or icy silences or whatever.
Yeah.
None of that happened. So she benefited, you benefited, because I didn't toxify the environment.
Right. Yeah.
Now, and the thing is, I saw him, which I did not say that he toxified the environment. I didn't.
No,
This is where it
think so.
changes. I didn't hear him toxifying the environment. Now, if I had Schrodinger's cat, if I had said, "Ooh, look at how he's toxifying the environment with his bad behavior," then I'm right, he's wrong, and I set up that
right.
judgment.
As soon as those judgments happen, then you're going to be attacked.
And well, not only that, but I charge the environment with everyone.
Yes.
My daughter suffers, you suffer, I suffer, he suffers. All these things happen.
Right.
So because the grace of God through the Holy Spirit, or we're doing this course or this practice, none of that happened. And instead, what would have normally under other circumstances been considered more reason to reinforce that wall, to reinforce that God's, that all that stay out there. It just came in through what might have been considered an angry outburst.
Right.
Love spawned in that, bringing my daughter, you, me, and this other guy, and probably even my son who wasn't there.
Right.
So anyway, my point being that I think that it really happens.
Yeah, it really does happen. And then it says you give these witnesses, now you give them a refuge, prepared by love for them where once a desert was. And everyone you welcome will bring love with him from heaven for you. So now you're starting to get witnesses of the benefit of allowing you to take down your barriers, allow God's entrance, which would come in through the Holy Spirit. And then they enter one by one into the holy place. But they will not depart as they had come, alone. Because no one is alone then. It's no longer an alone, oh, look at how I benefited from God's grace. No, when one person benefits from God's grace, more than one person always benefits from that. If you can call it person or just the sonship itself benefits. And love, the love they brought with them will stay with them as it will stay with you. So in each of these instances, when we allow I just call it, even just deciding whether you were conscious or not, to just not judge the moment. You just suspend your judgment on the moment and let it just be what it is. It's really hard for most of us to just let moments like these just be what they are and not jump in with ideas.
Well, the supreme irony to me, the irony or paradox, is that because of that situation, I saw this as, I'm not going to, there's the call to love, or the loving gesture, or the call for
and the
love.
invitation.
Right, the invitation to love. All I did is I saw it as a gesture of love. Now, whether it's coming at me or going away from me, I don't know.
Yeah,
it was a gesture of love. And it says, to give and to receive are one in truth.
That's right.
So if I'm receiving... if I'm perceiving a gesture of love there, well, by God, no pun intended, that's exactly what it was. Even though on the outside it might have looked like an angry thing, a reactive thing, or something like that. In that situation, that's all I've got is a witness to that particular situation. I can't generalize it. I'm not going to put it into textbook, that say that it's general for everyone everywhere. Right. But in that situation, I received a gesture of love that might have looked like an angry outburst, but I recognized very, very clearly that the angry outburst in him, aspect of it, is because of my distortions. In other words, that was coming at me as an expression of my own self-judgments and ideas that I have about talking too much or being too complicated or whatever. So a lot of healing happened because of the texture of it, because we weren't using nonviolent speech.
Right, yeah, it wasn't, yeah.
There was nothing politically correct about what was going on.
I agree, yeah.
And
it wasn't the right protocol or
whatever. Right, because we
didn't,
again, it's a situation where one loses kind of like control, but because the goal is the Holy Spirit, and it says it only takes one. Now, I'm going to say, safely speaking, in the illusion or the dream, he's not doing the Course in Miracles. I was. So I'm going to say that I was the one that made the request to the Holy Spirit at some point in that process. that allowed that transformation of the arid desert into a sort of a small garden happen. And what happens is then he's a leader of men. He's in group settings. He's a team leader with his working group. And he's also a thoughtful person. So I don't know how that works on him to go out into the world. And it's not for me to know.
Right, exactly. Okay.
Paragraph 10?
Yeah.
Go out and find them, for they bring yourself with them, and lead them gently to your quiet garden, and receive their blessing there. So will it grow and stretch across the desert, leaving no lonely little kingdoms locked away from love, and leaving you inside. And you will recognize yourself and see your little garden gently transformed into the kingdom of heaven, with all the love of its creator shining upon it. We have not talked about anything else than this. That's what this whole conversation is. I just want to amplify, and I would like you to respond. This is real. This really happens. This isn't poetic language.
Right.
This is physics.
It is physics. And it is telling you what are the things that you need to take into consideration when you are applying this. This is saying go out and find them. Those are your witnesses, for they bring yourself with them. Now that you've allowed the barriers to go down, you recognize the call, that it's a call for love for yourself, and which ends up being for others. So then the invitation, the call, allowing it to be witnessed, now it's going to saying, don't stop there. You've seen a couple of witnesses. Go out and find them. Actually look for them in your world. For they bring yourself with them, and they lead them gently to your quiet garden and receive their blessing there. Well, lead them, these witnesses, gently to your quiet garden and receive their blessing there. I would say that by not having any charged emotions around things and everything, you're actually demonstrating peace at that point, and therefore you're going to receive the blessings by a countenance of peace. So will it grow and stretch across the desert, leaving no lonely kingdom locked away from love. And it's saying love. So we're not shunning love. We're not being afraid of love. By this point, it's saying, no, okay, now you said letting God in, letting the Holy Spirit work, and now there's witnesses, and it's also saying, don't stop there, go out and find them. In other words, look for them. Be aware that they're going to be showing up.
Well, I have another example. I started going to a men's group over at church. I didn't want to do this, really. I mean, well, obviously I wanted to do it because I went, but it's not the kind of thing that I find a lot of enthusiasm for, to meet with a bunch of guys in a church basement on, 7:30 or 6:30, actually 6:30 on Saturday morning. Not my favorite thing. However, as an example, there are like 15 guys down there. And we're not talking about anything that's particularly, none of these are farm. If I speak generally, they're farmers. Okay, they got they got issues with bales. How many bales did we get this year? Okay, well, this year I got 120 bales. Last year I got 320. That tells you what kind of weather we've been having. And these guys work heavy equipment, and they've worked hard most of their lives, and most of them are from this area. I have really very, very little soulful commonality with these guys. I'm like the opposite of them. Mr. Santa Fe, Starbuck, Whole Foods guy. And but I'm there with these guys, and in that environment, and I'm speaking literally, I'm not dreaming up stuff for the purposes of this paragraph. I look forward to these people, whoever shows up, whether it's just 6 show up because they dragged themselves out of bed to be there, or amazingly 15 show up, and it's a mixed bag of who is actually going to make it and what degree of cognitive ability they have, you know. I mean, it's like a lot of those guys look like they've been fishing for way too long. And, you know, those are thoughts I have. I'm just trying to tell you, this isn't a men's group where we're like drumming and talking about our feelings. It's tough. However, a beautiful and soulful sharing emerges that is wordless in those settings. And I look forward to being there, just to be in it. I wonder who in this meeting, in this session, am I going to be called on to deal with some issue, something. You know, as a quick example, there's one guy there that I'm just talking from within myself. I developed a special relationship with this one guy. Now, in that special relationship, I have this guy on a bit of a pedestal. You know, he was military for a long time. He's a very accomplished guy. He's got a very interesting resume. And so, you know, I went from not caring who he was to saying, oh, I like this guy. You know, so I developed a special relationship. Well, of late, I feel like he discovered that I'm like a New Ager, kind of, quote unquote, and I'm one of, like, the enemy potentially. And he, you know, he's suspicious. He has a new suspicion of me, and so that like hurts my feelings. But I realize even there, and I'm not kidding, the beauty of the hurt feelings, the beauty of the inner sense that I have of rejection, so I can say, I bless you, brother. You need to be the person you are. You need to go your way. And you're right. I am a Starbucks guy. You know,
You don't say a Starbucks guy.
You know what I mean. I mean,
yeah.
it's this the New Age thing. You know, none of these guys have lived in wherever, Albuquerque or Bend, Oregon, or Sarasota, Florida. And that's not what they do. They don't ride their bike to church. They don't do these things.
Right.
So I'm an odd guy, oddball in this situation. Doesn't matter. I find each meeting and each challenge, and they are challenges. It's not like a bunch of smiles. There's a mixture, as with the son-in-law, negativity comes at me, negativity. But the thing is realizing that that's a mask for love,
a desire for intimacy.
Love, intimacy, self-knowledge. Now, criticize me, pick it apart. I mean, I don't know that I believe myself. I mean, I have to, because I'm telling the truth about it to the best of my experience.
Okay, so what were we reading here? That so it will grow and stretch out across the desert.
You're supposed to go look for these guys.
Yeah, right. Leaving no lonely little kingdom locked away from love and leaving you inside.
Go out and find them.
Yeah.
For they bring yourself with them.
Right.
So whether it's a guy that looks like he's been fishing too long, or a guy that I think is rejecting me because I look a little suspicious on the New Age side, or whatever it is.
You're missed when you're not there.
Whatever it is on the surface.
Well, at least that's what I've heard.
No, that's true. They like me. But I don't care anymore. I don't care, because I realize that my emotions, my feelings, my preferences, whatever it is, are so complex and convoluted that I can't do myself any justice. I can't help the situation. And so I just look forward to going there and seeing what situation will emerge. Whether it's the guy sitting at my elbow here, or a guy across the table, or maybe afterwards where there's nobody cleaning up the mess and I stay to clean up the mess and I talk with somebody afterwards. There is always a crossing that seems like an intentional thing about this garden, and these people that are bringing me a little bit of myself back to me in a loving exchange. I'm telling you, I don't know how to talk about it without making it sound like it's over the top or dramatic or something. It's not dramatic. It's not that interesting. But it is a form of relationship, a form of self-knowledge I did not ever know existed. It's not psychological. It's not emotional. It literally has to do with letting someone in, letting them be a messenger from the Holy Spirit of me to myself, receiving them as such, They go away healed and whole, and I go away healed and whole.
Right.
It's a brand new way of relating that I've never known existed until we started doing this.
It's kind of a lot more like dream interpretation than that way.
Yeah, yeah.
Because all aspects of the dream
living it like a living dream.
Yeah, like a living dream, as if, each of the items that show up, whether they're people or actual objects and everything else, become a message back at us that allows us to say, oh, I'm trying to talk to myself, and this is the way it's showing up. It looks like another person is doing this or saying this or whatever it is, and you realize it's an aspect of self for either a kind of a healing or a kind of recognition of what's going on with ourselves. So I think that's great. Okay, paragraph 11. The holy instant is your invitation to love, to enter into your bleak and joyless kingdom and to transform it into a garden of peace and welcome. Love's answer is inevitable. It will come because you came without the body and interposed no barriers to interfere with its glad coming. In the holy instant, you ask of love only what it offers everyone, neither less nor more. Asking for everything, you will receive it. And your shining self will lift the tiny aspect that you tried to hide from heaven straight to heaven. No part of love calls on the whole in vain. No son of God remains outside his fatherhood. So again, the holy instant, it's saying now, in the prior paragraphs, the invitation was made. I forget what that's, I'm just going to reference what I actually wrote in the side channels here. So in paragraph 8, there was the call. In paragraph 9, the invitation and welcoming. And paragraph 10 was find your brothers, go out and find them. And then the Holy Spirit is the holy instant is the invitation to love. So there's actual, if you actually look at each of these paragraphs, you'll see that it's giving you a protocol or whatever of how to dissolve that barrier that we've set up around our perceived little world that we want to keep all isolated and defend against and not let love in. There's a call, there's an invitation and a welcome. There's go out, now that you've gotten witnesses, find more witnesses, more brothers. And then in paragraph 11, the holy instant is the invitation to love. So to enter into the bleak and joyless kingdom that I had made. Love's answer is inevitable. It will come because you came without the body. I would say that by inviting in the Holy Spirit and everything else, the only way that the Holy Spirit can join with me is if I, for an instant, drop all my ideas about the self that I think that I am. Now, it's not real conscious. As you start to apply all of this and everything else, it starts to, just by practicing each of the workbook lessons and things like that, you start to get a feel for when you're blocking and when you're open, when you're blocking and when you're open. And when you feel like you're blocking, you go, oh, I'm blocking. And so either by judgments or comparisons or whatever it is, grievances, and you're able to drop it quicker because it's the recognition and awareness that allows you to drop it. It's like, why hold on to it? Which allows the Holy Spirit to come in and give you an answer, which is it's really beautiful. It starts to happen on a more regular basis if you apply the methods in which it's asking you to participate in. And then it says, don't ask for like small things. Ask for everything, and you will receive it. And what is the everything? Well, the everything is that all sentient beings are happy. All sentient beings are given peace.
Save the world.
Yeah, save the world. All sentient beings have happiness.
Yeah. Now, so once again, we go back to, if that's what I think needs to happen, whether it's issues that are at the scale of social engineering or historical wounds that have happened because of wars or social engineering of some kind, a Civil War or whatever, World War I, different things, the orphan train, where they load orphans on and they dumped them off in the Midwest and they ended up being criminals,
Slave labor, child labor.
Slave labor, child labor, like apparently that rash of criminals that happened in the the early 1900s,
Sundance
the late,
Kid
yeah,
and-
all those guys, they were children that were dumped in the West. They were born in the East and they were dumped in the West on the orphan train, and that they were just rejected ne'er-do-wells, misfits, and they acted it out in society. And then we have a mythology of criminality. Anyway, the point being that all those things are healable. If it's in my world, if I care about the orphan train, if I care about the Civil War, if I care about World War I, if I care about some geopolitical circumstance, it's incumbent upon me, given this, to realize that God's unlimited. God's garden doesn't have a scale.
Right.
I'm the one that throws a scale on the garden thing, and so it's up to me, as you said, set your bar absolutely as high as you want to, and then I would say just be aware of, if I set the bar extremely high, let's say it's world peace or something like that, I set it at that height. I'm going to need to look for all the witnesses, which means, you don't know what peace is, so I might need to be educated as to what that really means and what I'm really looking for. Is it peace in my world, peace in that world? The problem with the huge goals is that I may not be attentive enough to get what the witnesses are telling me about what I have chosen as a goal. I think they're there, but and so that's an ongoing desire, a request from the Holy Spirit. Give me the vocabulary, give me the understanding, because I'm asking for world peace. Help me to see, or some geopolitical deal.
And peace, literally, as the song goes, peace begins with me. So as you were practicing and you got witnesses to the fact that you weren't energized in either what could have been perceived as attacks, that means you're actually holding a countenance of peace. That means that other people are not going to feel to be engaged and get angry or anything else. It just sort of falls away. It's like laying down your guns, so to speak. So we don't know when we choose to not react, literally not react, how that affects the overall larger part of the sonship. Now, when you turn on the television or you open up your little thing about the news, are you actually seeing potential for peace talks, for whatever? Because it begins with how we change our own countenance so that we can begin to have the witnesses come.
Pay attention.
Pay attention to what they are.
And I'd say it's fair, and we've said it before, when you see that, you open up your phone or whatever, and it says, peace talks are being entertained, or there's this warfare collapsed or isn't working out, or that one looks like it's going to peter out, or whatever news you're getting at the geopolitical level, just say, I did that.
Yeah,
I did that.
Yeah,
no, it's not me.
No,
it's my intentionality with the Holy Spirit. Why?
Right.
Not so that it's not so that I reach into this world and manipulate everything. It's so that my garden thrives.
Right.
And I feel that I live in a land of love. That's the only goal. It's not so that I make Putin do something, or Xi Jinping, or somebody in the Philippines, right?
Yeah.
So that my garden is loving. And if I need a geopolitical solution for that to happen, if that's in fact, Holy Spirit will participate to bring that to me through either learning, understanding, reinterpreting, or, like you're saying, real messages off your phone that says, hey, you're making progress.
Like that one time we were talking, we were explaining about different miracles in our lives and everything, and you were wondering about whether a certain thing was a miracle. And right across the stream it said, it's a miracle.
I was amazed.
It was like within a couple of minutes. I don't know what it was part of, but it was hilarious.
I can't remember the conversation, but I was going, well, whether it's a miracle or not, I mean, and just across the screen, black screen, white letters right across the middle. It was a miracle. You know,
It seemed
I said, well, I guess it was a miracle.
I guess it was. That's a message from God right there. Okay, paragraph 12.
Be sure of this. Love has entered your special relationship and entered fully at your weak request. You do not recognize that love has come because you have not yet let go of all the barriers you hold against your brother. And you and he will not be able to give love welcome separately. You could no more know God alone than he knows you without your brother. But together you could no more be unaware of love than love could know you not, or fail to recognize itself in you. Now, I've found this to be true in every case, whether it was Tony with the storm door, son-in-law with that situation, the kid, my son at the Indian restaurant, the kid, whatever it is, any situation, or these guys in the men's group thing. It's not saying that I need to come to an agreement with one of these guys. I'm in partnership with the Holy Spirit. Mm-hmm. But what happens is, because of this invitation, and I'm not going to get into this thing of whether I've got the high ground of offering love versus receiving love. Right. Okay, let's get rid of that high ground idea that I'm a teacher and I'm doing something great. You know, you got to throw that out the window. You just got to get rid of it. Right. Why? Because I'm the one in the middle of an arid environment. I'm the one that needs to request the Holy Spirit. So when I get this gesture of love, rest assured, my friends, no matter what it looks like, it is love coming to me from the outside in. And I just have the benefit of an interpreter to help me understand what's actually going on. Mm-hmm. But in all these situations where that has happened, it is a mutual coming together. In the case of the son-in-law, where theoretically someone was huffing and puffing and someone was defending and defending, none of that happened. Right. It was a mutual intimacy, and I will guarantee you, my relationship with this relative, my son-in-law, my relationship with him is better. I'd say we're closer.
Yeah,
and I'm not going to try to understand it. Mm-hmm. I'm definitely not going to talk to him about it because he would just get pissed off at me again.
Doesn't like to go there.
But what do you think?
Yeah.
What do
you? No, I actually agree, because you can feel it. You know that if you can feel it, then the extension has happened, and in this one, it's saying that nothing. You can't do this alone. Be sure of this, love has entered your special relationship and entered fully at your weak request. That's what I'm saying when you don't realize as you begin to practice this that we have these sort of weak requests that it's like, gosh, it would be nice if and for some reason they start to get answered because you've been practicing. At any rate, you do not recognize that love has come because you have not yet let go of all the barriers you hold against your brother. So that's the only thing that's keeping the recognition that love is there, is that we're still holding some judgments against the other. It could be you, it could be my mother, it could be my friends next door, it could be anything. So I'm still holding these judgments. And so it's saying, you can let those go, and you will not be able to give love welcome separately. So until I drop those barriers, I can't give love welcome separately. Because whenever I give love, it's going to be for all. And it's going to include myself.
You asked me a while back, you suggested, and it's that I forgive my mother. Okay? Mm-hmm. I almost hate to say the mother thing because, there's such a convenient, ubiquitous target for... But you said forgive your mother for whatever reason. Let's stay away from the psychoanalysis of it. But the overarching dynamic of this, let's say, need for me to forgive my mother. Number one, that's a very strong primary relationship. Mm-hmm. And if I, at a very, very young age, experienced a sense of power in separateness, because I felt that she was overbearing or that she was absorbing, kind of the smothering mother, let's say. And I pushed back against it. And I created, and that felt like a powerful invention on my part. Look how I can protect myself against this woman who theoretically is my loving mother. But wait, you got to watch out for yourself, Phil. You figured something out here. And so I get attached to that learning. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I get attached to the skill that I developed of keeping my mother out and judging her by whatever means I have. And what ends up happening is I like that. I get attached to it. I develop an affection, if not a love, for the skill that I developed, for the technique, for the insight that I had of keeping my mother judged and separate. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
And so that what happens is, if I want to forgive my mother, the first thing that has to happen is to go, be done with your affection for that particular dynamic, that particular skill, and recognize that all of these things that you perceived as attack was your mother loving you in whatever form.
It was a call to love.
Yeah.
They're always a call to love, regardless of how it looks. I mean, some of them can be violent and everything else. But but yeah, because if we don't forgive those things, then we create a prison with the wall stays. That little section off from the real true kingdom is there.
But we don't sometimes see the wall because we like it so much.
Right. Because it helps us to hold on to our own individual space.
It feels like a pretty garden wall. We see it with vines and flowers, and it's life-giving. We just feel like it's, wow, what a great thing we've done.
Right.
And it's keeping me separate from that person or that situation or that group. No, that's not me. I'm not one of them.
Right. And I mean, and she's no longer in the world. And yet we keep these ideas that keep a barrier to even other intimacy because we're holding on to a grudge from, a past and things that are in our lives.
So recognize that we like our separations. We like our hatreds of other people. We like our sense of separateness. It gives us power. It gives us control. We like these things. Yeah. And before we can
it gives us self-righteousness.
Right. Before we let them go, we have to recognize what pleasure and entertainment we get out of being separate from these people, circumstances, situations, demonizations. We like these things. It's necessary to recognize that.
Yes.
It's like
I agree.
I don't identify, let's say, vanilla ice cream as an enemy.
Yeah.
Because I like it. It's like if you like it, it's not going to be problematic for you. But these walls that we have, these alienations, this stuff that's keeping the life of God from coming into our little parched turf.
Yes, I agree.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Last paragraph. Paragraph 13. You have reached the end of an ancient journey, not realizing yet that it is over. You are still worn and tired, and the desert's dust still seems to cloud your eyes and keep you sightless. Yet, he whom you welcomed has come to you and would welcome you. He has waited long to give you this. Receive it now of him, for he would have you know him. Only a little wall of dust still stands between you and your brother. Blow on it lightly and with happy laughter, and it will fall away. And walk into the garden love has prepared for both of you. Well, that's, what can I say? It likes to end with these great paragraphs at the end of each section that I just makes me smile. It's just, it's only a little while, just a little dust, blow it lightly and with happy laughter, and it will fall away. Well, I mean, will we? That's the question, is will we do that when we actually, as you said, like the barrier between myself and the brother, want to keep my individuation.
Love the barrier. The barrier
and
could
my
be
judgments,
killing me.
and that I'm right and they're wrong or whatever it is.
So I think we should spend a little bit of time on that, because it's the marching orders.
Yes.
It's saying blow it and happy laughter and all this. And I always love these paragraphs. And I always go, you know what? I'm not going to blow on anything with happy laughter. So I need a way of looking at it that I can understand.
Okay.
So what do you think? Just think. Take anything. See if you can find anything that you have that is a barrier that stands between you and just this happy laughter, this garden of care that's going to come in, this loving garden that comes across, and that you've got a wall up upon. Do you have anything like that you know?
Well, I would say that every time, you know, a health issue comes up, it's not necessarily a brother, but I can just call it health issues and things like that. Things that the body likes to say, hey, pay attention. That there's a sense that I need to take control of that situation, however I'm going to do it. You know, some people go to the doctor right away. I tend to go on the internet and try to find out who else feels this way, has these particular symptoms and things like that, and see what's going on. But they can definitely be, they're preoccupations of what do I need to do to protect my body, you know, from the onslaught of age or whatever's going on, you know. And so I what do you want to say something?
Just, is there any sort of an overarching narrative that would cause you to have to cherish that relationship with, let's say, let's say a super sore hip or a tightness somewhere, and that there's the internet. So you've got knowledge questing, you've got physical manifestation. Mm-hmm. Is there anything in that really you have an affection for?
Well, yeah, I have affection for, like, thinking that I'm, you know, it's like a treasure hunt for me. It's like I'm going to figure this out. It's a figuring out. I'm going to fix it. I'm going to figure it out. I mean, it's like a guy working on a car, for God's sake. You know, he's going to say, well, you know, it looks like this thing isn't working over here and this one lives there. And he does a diagnostic and he goes, well, need that part, you know, and he goes off and you feel, you know, enlivened about that. Hey, I found out what was wrong and I fixed it. It's a puzzle. You know what I mean?
And the it that you're fixing, what is that it?
Whatever it is that's painful or whatever. You know, I'm fixing my body. I'm trying to fix something. And if I think I figured it out all by my little lonesome, there's no room for God to come in with a miracle. Let's just put it that way. Because I am doing, quote, the work. Unless when I go on the internet, I'm going, I have no idea, Lord. Lead me to the right place, to the right information, which I do sometimes, actually. But and there are interesting answers. All of it's magic. At that point, it's all magic, and yet God will use magic to help us through some things sometimes. And but I'm trying to think in relationship to others. I mean, there's no real conflict right now, but with one friend of mine, I had to, who has a tendency for me to feel like, you know, when she's in conversations with me, it would be like that she's right about stuff. Her judgments are right and everything. So I can take my situation with my health and everything else. And I think, I'm right. Look at what I'm finding. I'm right about this. I'm going to take care of it. And she's right about others and judgment and everything else. So there are reflections of myself in this other. And
well, can I jump in and just say a couple of things and you react to it? That in this scenario that you're in, and I'd say we can generalize it for everyone, more or less, that your body is the dry desert. Yes. Your body is this dry desert. And love doesn't come in there. There's no love in the body or for the body. There's no love there. The body is a constant enemy that might just, you know, show its colors at any moment. And so that you, being the ego sense, you have to be on guard against the body. And
I would say that's true.
And so that in this sense, that other that you have a defense against is you yourself, especially the body.
Right.
So what can we do about this? Because that's a common deal. I wake up with an ache or a pain, and you do feel like you're attacked by the body. What do you what do you think? I say, what do you think? Like, I spent some time on it musing this morning.
Yeah.
And I don't have the answer. I don't have the answer, because pain in the body can overwhelm your sense of all this lovey-dovey talk about letting in things.
Yeah, right.
You know,
okay.
and all you want to do is fix it. That's all you want to do is fix it.
Well, let's go over it line by line. It says, you have reached the end of an ancient journey, not realizing yet that it is over. And the Course says this several times, that the journey that you think that you're participating in this realm, it's over. When the mad idea came out, the answer was given. And now we live it out in little, what looks like part and parcel, with the Holy Spirit, asking the Holy Spirit and everything else. But it's already been solved. And really, we have to, at some point, say, I don't need to play the game anymore. And that means that I don't need to say, wow, I need to fix this. I need to take care of this. You know, this is what's bothering me.
But
or
the
whatever.
pain makes you do that.
Yeah,
though.
it does. It does make me do that. But while it's happening, you can still say, you know, I don't know what this is for. None of it, all of it is a teacher. Everything is a teacher. So I don't know what it's for. Holy Spirit, help me to hear its message, so that I can let go of either an idea or whatever it is that is now manifesting in my life as this thing. I'm not an immortalist, as we've talked about before. And so the body is going to do what it's going to do, just like the fruiting tree that we talked about in the other video, where you said, you know, the apple tree, you know, the blossoms come out, and then the fruit, and then the fruit happens, and then eventually it drops and all the leaves fall, and then it goes into the ground, and then it goes, and that cycle goes back around again. Well, the body is that tree, you know, and I need to recognize that that's what it is. And I don't need to have a special attachment, because it's our attachment to it, to thinking that it needs to be perfect all the time, not only in health, but in how it looks and how it's perceived by others and everything else. I mean, we're majorly preoccupied with the body in this world. So it's telling us, the second sentence is, you are still worn and tired, and the desert dust still seems to cloud your eyes and keep you sightless. Yet he, that's the Holy Spirit, whom you welcomed, has come to you. So I don't even recognize that the Holy Spirit's already come through all the other things that we've been doing. It's actually available to me now, and would welcome you. But I'm not aware of it, because I still have these barriers of ideas and judgments against myself and against my brothers. So I think it's just a constant awareness of when I'm putting up a barrier based on a judgment to myself or a judgment to other, that as soon as I feel those, to actually say, Holy Spirit, I need your answer. And just say, I don't really know what this is for. I don't know why my interaction with this person is feeling this way. I don't know why I'm feeling like I want to just, you know, get a hold of my body and make it do what I want it to do. All of those things are attacks. And he's saying, you're worn and tired, and the desert dust still seems to cloud your eyes and keep you sightless. Yet the Holy Spirit you welcomed has come to you, and would welcome you. He has waited long to give you this, to give you the answer. Receive it now of him, for he would have you know him. So if I recognize that I'm doing those things, I can just say, okay, stop. Just stop for a minute. The Holy Spirit's with me. I just have to invite him in and receive of him what he would have me know of him. Because that lets you know of yourself.
Right. While you were talking, I thought, what if I looked at the body and the pain that it comes at me with, or the surprises that I don't like, you know, with the body, is similar to, again, my son-in-law, you know, where it's a surprise, there's a violence. And let's just expand out and say that is physical pain. The rattling of pans, the noisy pissed off
Oh, yeah.
thing. And there's, so that the body, I perceive it as a rattling of pans and a noise, a temper tantrum thrown by the body. And I want to just scream it into submission. It's like, why don't you just have a nice time like the rest of us here? My elbow, my arm, my toes, they're not raising hell. Why you? Fall in line. And instead of taking that sort of authoritarian viewpoint, as I did with my son-in-law, is to say, to work and to really pray and request that I have the presence to see all things as an echo of the voice for God. And just because the body is so close, it's easier to do with that guy over there because he's over there. But when that pan rattling is in the shoulder or that knee or the hips or the stomach or whatever, when that pan rattling is going on, if I can just say, wow, this is intimacy, this is a loving gesture, and I've got to enter into relationship through the pain without judgment somehow. But you know what, Joanna? I don't know where that goes, because in the end, we always want it to fall in line.
Right.
We don't want to, and I'm almost afraid to do that, because it's like, oh man, it's going to take you to the cleaners. Your body's going to hurt all the time unless you ball it out and make it do stuff.
Right.
But I have never tried.
Right.
I've never tried.
Right. Neither have I. Right?
And I never tried with the son-in-law.
So we'll just try, and we'll see what happens, because it says it's only a little wall of dust that still stands between you and your brother. And if you want to call this, as St. Francis called it, Brother Ass was his body.
Brother Ass. And he was upset because he gave Brother Ass such a hard time through his whole lifetime.
Yeah, it was sickly a lot. And then he ended with stigmata, and he was in pain all the time.
But he did that. He viewed his body as something that really needed to be flagellated.
Yeah.
He needed to whip it into shape because he saw it as the problem. And it wasn't until after a lifetime of that.
Yeah, and he was willing to starve it. And
right,
everything.
that he made the great apology. Oh, Brother Ass, you were an innocent bystander in my craziness.
And it's a good, that alone is a good meditation to me, is to think about what St. Francis did to his body, and then said, oh, I'm so sorry what I did to Brother Ass.
Right.
Because it's our ideas of ourself and everything else that often, they'll manifest in the body in a way. The body is neutral, but it becomes the talking stick. It's talking back at us. It's like, hey.
Give it a shot.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.